So hello and welcome. Today we have with us Amit Sahi. Today joining us from Jodhpur, India. Hi Amit, how are you?
Hi Sandeep, how are you?
I'm doing very good. So Amit has been a veteran of financial markets. He's worked in multiple exchanges across the world, starting with the Bombay Stock Exchange. He's worked with exchanges such as Dubai Gold and Commodities Exchange, Nasdaq Dubai. He's had a short stint in Mauritius with an exchange called Bourse Africa. So Amit, you've been following the markets actively. I know that you're an active investor as well. So before we get started, my first question to you will be, on a personal note, are you bullish or bearish in the current circumstance?
uh, Personally, I've been pretty bearish for the last couple of months, and have been exceedingly wrong on that count. So, from an investment perspective, my portfolio seems to be doing super good, but from a trading perspective, I've been a loser. But yeah, looking forward, it's a very exciting time because we're entering into some multiple events going forward, specifically the U.S. elections, which is coming up. And I'm sure, I don't know, even today, before the US market is just opened, I was just looking at Bloomberg, and it shows that the US market, especially the tech index, is up almost at 2% again. So it's going to be kissing its all-time high. So the market is just bullish right now with the sentiment, and nothing seems to be stopping it. But I'm sure that we are entering a bout of volatility as we move towards the election.
Definitely. I was looking at some indicators in terms of how the indices across the world are performing, and it's surprising to see the year to date growth in some of the markets. I know Europe is struggling a bit, but if you look at US, I mean, maybe it's driven by the tech stocks, or are the markets coming back to normal after seeing the COVID plunge? But it is I mean, I don't know, but as an expert, what do you see? What do you see as the reason?
I mean, you will be surprised to know, as much as I am, that most of the global markets right now are above their pre-COVID levels. So the mini crash, as it may sound, which started after the COVID scare initially came to the planet Earth, within 3 weeks, the market had tanked by around 20, 25, and in some markets, even 30% and more. And as we moved around from 31st to September, and now in early October, most of the markets have scaled higher than the pre-COVID highs. So as Nasdaq is going to be kissing 1,000 today, Nasdaq 100 index, it's just berserk. Even the Indian markets out here, they have reached the 12,000 level. The Nifty index, the Sensex index, which went down from 40,000 to 25,000, is back above 40,000. So it's absolutely insane. And I think it's difficult to pinpoint what is the reason, because COVID was not good news for the planet, not good news for the business. It's been a big disruptor in terms of people's lives, how businesses have been carried on from home, in lockdown, in curfews. And if you go to the ground and talk to people who run these small businesses, a good percentage of them are actually out of business, right? So what the stock markets are indicating and what the real economy underlying is, there is a big, I would say there's a big curtain between them, and it's just a high tide, which I would assume, or I would give the reason that the Federal Bank of the United States of America, at the behest of President Trump, have been just printing the US dollars, and it's been flooding the US markets. And from there, the overflow has led into the other markets. So there's so much of liquidity in the market right now that stocks have only one way to go, and that is up. So that's what I would attribute the reason for the stock markets to be going up in such a manner. Having said that, there is also a big bifurcation that has happened in these 6 months of the pandemic, which is basically that people have seen that there have been companies which have severely benefited from the pandemic. And these are primarily the large tech stocks on whose products and services the human beings have been increasingly getting more and more dependent to live their daily lives. You can see the examples of companies like Zoom. I mean, Zoom Media was not even a $10 billion company, and today it's a $120 billion company, right, in 6 months. So that's because you and I right here on a Zoom call, and 6 months before I didn't know what Zoom was. Most of the children of my friends, they're taking school classes on Zoom. You're socializing with your school friends, your college friends, all on Zoom. So these are the kind of companies, and then you have the Facebook, the WhatsApp, the Apples, the big tech, and all of these companies making human beings so much dependent on their products and services that they have been virtually generating cash like the world is never going to end. And then there are the other sets of businesses, which were the normal businesses. Take for example the entertainment business, like cinema hall, for example, the tourism sectors, the hotel industry, the leisure industry, the airlines. I mean, those guys have faced the brunt of the pandemic. They've actually got the businesses completely closed down, and most of these businesses are currently having bleeding balance sheets and for aid. So that's a big bifurcation that we are seeing in terms of stock market. So one part of the stock market, especially the niche tech, is doing really, really well. And it's supposed to do well because they're financially doing well. But the other businesses are just coming along with them. I mean, the stocks are coming up. It's just because of excess liquidity in the market.
Interesting. No, definitely. I mean, as you said, everybody is now opening their eyes towards being more tech centric or running their business, with higher usage of technology, or maybe pivot to something which is, which is independent of this sort of a crisis, or which can run virtually. And yes, it is really interesting to see how the markets are performing. I mean, if you look at your personal experience, you had quite a fascinating journey. You started with the Bombay Stock Exchange, where you were part of the team that literally structured the sensitivity index, popularly known as the Sensex, the BSE Sensex. You worked with exchanges all your life, some of the leading and growing exchanges in the world. Some are more like startups. How has your journey been, and what what led you to continue with from one exchange to the other and stick in this particular field?
That's a very interesting question, Sandeep, and it takes me back in time. It's kind of nostalgic because I remember when I finished my graduation, I actually graduated with honors in computer science engineering, and everybody in my family expected me to get a H-1B stamp and be in the United States of America for the rest of my life. I took a conscious decision during that time because, fortunately or unfortunately, I was introduced to the stock markets by my elder brother during the time when I was pursuing my graduation in computer engineering. And I got so much interested into the markets that by the time I graduated out, I actually decided that I am going to make a career in the stock market. And every time I would see, in those days, we didn't have a lot of these private news channels, but we did the national news channels, which would flash the Bombay Stock Exchange, Dalal Street, the PJ Towers of the iconic building, where most of the activity used to happen, and they would flash the Sensex, and that always fascinated me. So that kind of became like a dream for me to someday work there. As they say, choose your dream well because you're sure to achieve it. In a matter of few years, I was actually sitting in that building. That was my second job after a very brief stint in a securities firm, and I ended up in the index cell, which was part of the risk department. And at that time, they had a very archaic way of managing the index, which was known as the sensitive index of the Bombay Stock Exchange. And I got this great opportunity to work with some of the most amazing people out there, learn about the stock market. I utilized my own knowledge in technology and the markets, and we then structured the Sensex to come at par in terms of its design amongst the best indexes in the world. And I was there for around 4.5 years in the Bombay Stock Exchange, and I got absolutely the best exposure working with the best of the best fund managers India still has. Some of those guys are now CEOs of the leading mutual funds and asset management companies, and it was absolutely a brilliant experience working with those guys, debating with them, coming up with policy decisions, structuring the index, coming up with new indexes. And then there was this great opportunity to launch the first exchange traded fund based on the Sensex index. I think we launched this ETF called SPICE along with ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund at a time when the mutual fund industry in India was at a very, very nascent stage. And the ETF industry was absolutely, I mean, it was absent. So we actually started it. And it was probably too early because if you see, 2003, we had launched the first ETF. And today, 17 years hence, you would see advertisements of, the ETFs coming in. People want to, asset management companies advertising about buying the Nifty index as an ETF or buying the Sensex ETF. Globally, ETFs have become one of the most popular investment vehicles. And if we talk about the US market or the European market or the Japanese market, they are very, very in terms of ETF. To give you, without stretching the topic of the ETF, just to put into perspective how important ETFs are, they are currently managing something like $16.5 trillion. So the assets under management globally are in that kind of range, 16 to $17 trillion when you look at the ETF industry. And the NASDAQ 100 ETF, which is called as the QQQ or the QQQ, is the most traded security in the world, right? So the ETF trades like a stock, and the QQQ is the most traded stock every day on the planet Earth. So it was a great experience, a great exposure. And after my stint at the Bombay Stock Exchange, I out of the blue got an opportunity. Out of the blue, absolutely, somebody gave me a call. They were looking for an index expert in Dubai because Dubai was starting with the International Financial Center. They had big plans, and within the International Financial Center, they had a plan to come up with a greenfield international exchange. So they needed somebody with the index expertise, and I fit very well in that role. And that's how I just migrated to Dubai. Pretty good experience there as well. Very different from the Bombay Stock Exchange because Bombay Stock Exchange was a 125-year-old exchange when I joined it, and this was a startup. And in a region which is very, very small, in a country which is very, very small. So it was actually a different experience, but a great exposure in terms of these global products. So that really added to my experience in terms of the structure of products that were utilized in more developed markets like the US markets, the Deutsche Börse, the German market, for example, and the London Stock Exchange. So that really, really helped me. I was instrumental in working on the structured products platform there. We did some Islamic products. We came up with new indexes there, and also a commodity ETF, which was basically a gold ETF. So a very, very interesting journey out there. And then I just got an opportunity to work in Mauritius for a couple of years. That's where we met and both are a story where we are trying to put equity derivatives and an equity cash market platform. So what has been my own personal journey, it's been very open-minded. I've never sought to move to any of these places. It's been pretty much destiny. I got a call from somebody or I got connected by somebody and a proposal came and I just took it. I would say more by instinct than by any analysis. And by God's grace, it's always paid out really well because I really value all the experiences that I had in each of these countries. And in 2013, then after a couple of years in Mauritius, I again got back an offer from Dubai, and this time to join the commodities and the derivatives exchange, the Dubai Gold and Commodities Exchange, which was an even better experience because that was a multi-asset exchange which had derivative products trading already. And I got a mandate to start their equity derivatives platform. And there I got a real good exposure, leaning with the global international market making companies, the high frequency trading companies, professional trading companies, individual proprietary traders, a lot of these global institutional banks that used to provide clearing services out there. So that was a 4-year stint. And after that, I got called back by my first company, which had basically got rebranded into Nasdaq Dubai to help them set up local derivatives for Dubai, basically, and the UAE, broader UAE. So I worked a couple of years there as well, and we did the Dubai equity derivatives. We did the Abu Dhabi equity derivatives, and we also launched some derivatives on the Saudi market, which is an upcoming large market in the GCC. So that kind of sums up my total experience. Very broad. I took a kind of a sabbatical for the time being, just to be on my own. And I've been more busy than I was when I was actually working with institutions, because I started playing the US market last year, and it has been a phenomenal learning experience for me out there.
It's definitely a very interesting career, and you've been in a field which I see as one of the most democratic areas, to not to work, but exchange is a very democratic field, right? Where the market determines the price of the stock, and this is something that I learned with my stint in the exchange in Mauritius, and understanding various exchanges, is that you may think you're at value X, but it is the market who determines your true value, which is a real example of democracy, and this excites me in terms of how exchanges are parameters of the economy, and the exchange performance determines how the economy is performing. And today, we are seeing a trend. We've seen this trend in the last maybe 1.5 decades or 2 decades, that technology has made exchanges a lot more accessible, right? And a lot more direct to the participant. And a lot of transformation has happened in the last 10 years. And I think the future has a lot more to offer, right? Today we are able to trade global markets sitting anywhere. You go on to various online portals and you can get access to multiple markets, which maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, took multiple middle men or middle level participants, to access these global markets. So technology is playing a major role in terms of transforming the entire exchange business or the sector. Where do you see the future in terms of technology making exchanges much more accessible, and which we can literally call as a world without borders, where we can access any market sitting anywhere?
Yeah, there's been a great disruption that technology has actually brought, as you rightly and luckily, if I chart my own career from the time that I started at the Bombay Stock Exchange until now, I have actually gone through the entire evolution curve of how technology has actually made a change. Because when I joined the Bombay Stock Exchange, the exchange was just 5 years into an electronic trading system. And they used to still go to the trading ring, as it is called, where brokers would negotiate, with hand gestures and with personal relationships. They would write notes and prices, and they would negotiate and then put the negotiated deal through the terminals, the electronic terminals. So the market had not graduated completely towards an electronic system. From that time till today, where it's completely anonymous trading, you can put an order of 1 million shares at whatever price that you want, and it might get absorbed. Your order might get executed, and you'll not even come to know who are the people who have sold it to you. So it's as you said, as you use the word democratic, very apt, and I think it's even gone beyond the democratic character, in the sense that I see market as an amazingly capable entity, in the sense that I give respect to the market, my reverence to the market when I use the word guru. So for me, the stock market is a guru. The guru is a very reverent word, as you would understand, and why I say that is because despite all the theories that we might have academically, we might have so many different methods of gauging what a stock price should be, from a financial accounting standpoint, or from a fundamental analysis standpoint, or from a balance sheet study standpoint, or from a technical analysis standpoint, or these various statistical methods that people use, the experts use as traders. But market is the king. Market is the best possible aggregator of all potential and actual information that is available around the earth, right? So it prices in every bit of information that you would know, you would not know, which might be coming on, which is already there or is latent, and then the price of a stock is decided. So it actually goes beyond democracy in that sense. And when you see a price of the stock over a period of time, when you really get hurt in the market, when you go wrong again and again, because you're a novice initially, you you use the tools given in the book and apply them, and then you expect that, you become really smart, you know what the price should be, and then you're taken aback when you see that your analysis was completely shattered by the market price. And then you start learning and going down to the market saying market knows best, right? So whenever you see the price, market knows best. So if a company was good to go down 30% on a single day, it's not something deserved. It's obviously might be a knee-jerk reaction on that particular day, but there's definitely something cooking in that stock. There's some piece of information that is so drastic and so implicating for that company that the stock price has reacted in that manner. So that's what the market is. But again, coming back to technology, I think technology has made things very, very simple for people. During our times, we would not have the ability to launch these products. Forget launching the products. The main point is getting people to understand these products. Today, through a technological platform, I mean, the best example is your platform. So through your platform, people sitting at home can actually take the advantage of, learning about these products, sitting in Mauritius from the comfort of their homes. That's what technology will, right? So you can understand the most complex of market depending on your knowledge. You can understand these products, get the knowledge of these products, and on the second hand, technology has basically made accessing these products, as you use the word, accessing these products very, very simple within the regulatory framework of each country. So accessing market products is not only technology dependent, it's also dependent on the regulatory framework of particular countries. So as it stands today, the largest market, which is the United States, they have evolved to a level where they virtually allow every country, people from every country to participate in their markets, as long as the money that is sourced is genuine. There is no hanky-panky in the money. They simply allow everybody to participate. Now it is up to people living in particular countries to see whether their own laws allow them to trade in foreign markets or not. And once they have done this due diligence and this exercise, and once they've got a tick box on that, then it's purely very simple. I mean, you can today open an account with one of these global brokers online, filling forms, uploading your information, your identity, your KYC, know your client forms, and whatever information they want. And you can use your bank to transmit through SWIFT US dollars into the account of these brokers. Most of these brokers who are accredited and regulated by the US regulators are very safe, and their process of onboarding clients is very, very simple. So once you open an account with them, they give you the chance to trade on a paper account. That means you can do simulated trading, simulated investment to understand how the market initially operates, and then you can slowly graduate towards putting your hard-earned money to trade these markets. So definitely, I mean, technology has opened the gates for anybody sitting. The best place is sitting in the ocean island of Mauritius. From that beautiful place, I mean, it's a dream for me to sit on a beach, using technology and broadband internet services to trade from the beach. That would be the dream for anybody who's wanting to be an ace trader. So yeah, technology has made it possible today.
Definitely. I hope your dream comes true really fast, and we see you on a beach in Mauritius actively trading. And
Inshallah, thanks a lot.
One thing about market is that whenever I learned the global economy a lot better when I started investing into markets, whichever market, regional, global, or whichever country. But my understanding of the particular economy, grew tremendously when I was investing. And more so while I was trading in derivatives. So I never made money in derivatives. I feel I'm the long-term investor. And as I think Warren Buffett also mentioned that derivatives can be compared to weapons of mass destruction. So I played very small, it was a very calculated risk. But I realized, with derivatives, because you're leveraged, every movement in the market can create an impact on your P&L. And but my learning during that process was accelerated, right? And which is the reason why I always, if I meet anybody who's a youngster or even working in this particular field, I mention that you should understand the market, right? You should invest a small quantity, whatever your capacity allows, into the market, because it's like a university. It is a university. It's like when the rubber meets the road. When your money is invested into the market, you're serious. You follow what is impacting that particular price of a product that you're invested into, right? And this is what we are trying to promote. When we launched your online course on stock market fundamentals on Adventure, we saw, people were inquisitive to see, how the market operates. What are the investment opportunities that people have today? They do not know. There are not enough opportunities for them to learn about this. But how do you? I mean, what is your message to people in terms of having this basic understanding of the financial market?
I think Sandeep, you hit the nail head. You're absolutely right in that sense. I do not have any formal education in markets, except for my MBA in finance, where they do not teach you how to trade or invest in the stock market. They only teach you how to study balance sheet and how to do financial accounting, right? So what I would tell investors is every bit is a learning process. And as you said correctly, when you put $1 into the market of your hard-earned money, that's where your mind starts operating really into it, because you know that your own money is at stake. So no matter how many books of legendary investors you might read, or how many YouTube videos you might watch of legendary traders, how many movies you might watch which are Hollywood flicks, market will only teach you when you put your own hard-earned money and you lose from it, right? So my education has been pretty expensive, even more expensive than I would say having a Stanford or a Harvard degree in financial markets. But it's still worth it, and the education doesn't end; it's still ongoing. So I can't say that I'm a doctorate in investment or trading today. I'm still learning, because every time you take a position in the market and you have your own way of seeing how the market is going to perform, in the short, medium, and long term, and then you're proved wrong by the market. And then when you're proved wrong, it really pains. And when it pains, then you really go back and see what exactly went wrong. And that process of researching basically enhances your knowledge. You discover something new every time, something that you missed, right? And that becomes like a salient feature for you not to repeat the next time. And there are so many of these salient features because my market is such a dynamic place. Obviously, people, revered people like Warren Buffett and others have put some to understand and points which you always keep in mind. But then the human nature always supersedes them. So, for example, derivatives, Warren clearly said that they are weapons of mass destruction of financial assets. That's pretty true. And every time that I've delved in the derivatives market without being hedged, I've faced that destruction. So what the old man said is absolute reverence to him, is loads of experience, right? And he knew that anybody who would go through that would face that consequence. But when you go and burn yourself, then the learning is so that you never forget the lesson again, right? So that's how the market keeps on teaching you, and it's a parallel learning. So it's not just trading. There are a lot of trading tools, right? So every time you get into a new product, example, you trade an ETF, you take a leverage product, you do margin trading, you get into options, right? So every time the market teaches you a new thing, how to play this product, how to invest into this product. And over a period of time, you do get experience, you do get learned. And if you go slow and steadily, I can tell you after almost 25 years of personally investing and trading into the market, that there is no other place where you will find so much of wealth creation opportunity as you would find in the stock market if you get it right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's a really interesting university, as we may call it, rightly. Amit, you've had, I mean, your experience, if I look at your experience in the stock markets, I would say that you've been an innovator, right? Right from the time you're part of the team that was, redefining the Bombay Stock Exchange Sensex, to the time you worked with a lot of startup exchanges. Your role has been innovating and coming up with new products, right, which are relevant for that particular market and also have global relevance. Whether it is an equity related product, or it is a derivative of any product which is essential for risk management, hedging, or trading for that matter. So you've been an innovator. Now, if I take you back 20 years, if I take you back by 20 years and you have to make these decisions, today you understand market, you understand the diverse opportunities that you may have. Now, a lot of young people are looking at making their career in the financial market space, right? And I would like them to have a look or understand this journey through your lens. And let's go 20 years back. What would have been the alternate options that you would have considered, right? Or what are the options that are available for anybody who's looking at making a career in the financial market space?
And financial markets is a very, very broad space. It's an ocean in itself. It has got tremendous potentialities. Not only as a professional who would work directly with the exchange, coming up with investment products, listing companies, and then doing these financial instruments, but the participants in a stock market are so diverse in their makeup. So you have got insurance companies participating, you've got pension funds participating, you've got a huge mutual fund industry, you've got private portfolio investors, you've got alternative funds, you've got hedge funds. All these entities are having some or the other kind of niche in themselves. So young people who are maybe graduating or who have an interest in the stock market, they have to discover their own liking and their own particular interest within the market framework. So a lot of job opportunity will continue to emerge in areas of research. Like, for example, if I was to talk only about equity markets is totally dependent on research. So when we talk about investment, the large brokerage houses, they employ a team of really smart researchers. So these are people who are naturally inclined to unearth information about companies that would give them good tools to put a reasonable valuation, or to anticipate what kind of a growth a particular company might have. So research professionals will always be in demand. Secondly, professionals who are very, very good in communication, who are very fast, agile, and they love the market movements, who love to trade even track the markets on a daily basis. They have got plethora of opportunities to join these brokerage firms as either advisors to client on intraday position, or to become executors on trading terminals, because still a lot of trading still happens on phone. So you might have these large brokerage firms, the human to human. It's not like technology has completely eliminated the need for human intervention. So you'll still find a lot of people, because ironically, Sandeep, no matter how much we say, technology savvy people are the youngsters, the new generation, right? So they would do everything on their mobile phone, but they don't have that much of money to trade or invest in markets. And the people who've got a lot of money to trade and invest in the market are the white-haired people, 50 plus people who would have made a lot of money in their careers, and they've got a lot of savings, maybe retired by now, and they just want to have fun with the market. Now, these category of people are not very technology savvy, right? So they own the best iPhones, they own the best laptops, but they're not that savvy with technology. So they'll still pick up their iPhone and their broker. They want a human to talk to when they're taking a trading or an investment decision. So that person on the other side, who these people are talking to, will always be in demand. No matter what kind of technology comes up, you might automate everything. You might bring artificial intelligence to suggest what market trend is seen by a brokerage house, but you still have those humans who are talking to clients directly. So the client-facing individuals will always be much in demand. And then you have people who have understanding of the financial products, so they can take up jobs as salespeople of mutual funds, because mutual funds require humans to be distributors. So they can be into mutual fund distribution. They can be on the marketing, sales. They can come up with innovative ideas for mutual funds to grow their distribution. So I mean, there are infinite opportunities, which youngsters can take as investment tools. And if they are quite acquainted to the market, they like the market, they feel very natural with how stocks move, how companies form, they are able to track the companies and businesses, then they can be stock advisors themselves.
Interesting. So, I mean, there's ample opportunity related to the stock market, and I'm sure, with the technology revolution that's happening, a lot more possibilities will emerge, with regards to, something very interesting that we've been seeing is algorithmic trading, which is also tech based, or using past patterns to devise the future trends of the market. A lot of people are trying to beat the market, which is I don't know whether it's happening or not, but attempts are being made. And social trading, is something very interesting concept that I saw. Now, of course, I've been seeing you. We have been interacting, so our social trading is one-on-one. But there's so many people who can follow your trades and learn from you, and just see what you're doing in the market.
Absolutely. I think it's all information flow. So market is a lot dependent on information flow. And the best thing about the market is that it leads the information, which means that when you see an information pop out on the mass media, the market has already priced information, right? So which basically means that there are sources of information that the market has which are so efficient that it always be the mass media, which is something I would say is more akin to the social interfacing or how the information moves socially. It's almost like air. You can't stop air, or you can't water to seep in where it has to. So information flow also happens that way. There have been a lot of people who have been trying to beat the market using models. Again, these are accurate models. The only difference is that they've used technology to program them so that instead of a human, a machine computes and comes out with an answer much faster than humans can. And that's where, using high frequency trading, they've been able to beat the human traders. But now it's getting to the point, where the competition is because most of these people, the large people, already have these resources with them. So now the competition is going to the point where who's got a faster connectivity with the exchange. So it goes down to your lease line, your telecom lines, how far you're sitting from the exchange. It comes to micro and nanoseconds. And then they're talking about technologies like microwave, so instead of the telecom line, they have microwave, so it's like maybe 100th of a nanosecond at which, they would execute. So that's the berserk side of the market. I think normal investors, normal traders would not go into that detail. They don't have that much of invested capital. So these are large institutions which are niche in quantitative trading and algorithmic trading. These are those guys. But when we talk about social trading, that's a very interesting concept that is coming up, and it leads us from the fact that even today, even a president of the United States of America uses Twitter as a means of coming up with an opinion or a message that he wants to give to the world. So these platforms have become quite overwhelming, and their distribution seems to be the best currently. So these social platforms, when they start talking about a particular stock, particular market, a particular issue in the economy in itself, then these become, even though there's a lot of noise in them because it needs to be filtered, but now people are working towards intelligent systems that segregate the noise from the real content which you find on these social platforms, and they just take those particular important content, and using those content they come up with what the market would do based on the aggregation of those smart information after they have kind of rejected the noise from it. So it's a very interesting area. So youngsters, who are IT professionals and who also have a additional interest in the stock markets can kind of marry these two knowledge and work towards coming up with these hybrid, solutions, bespoke solutions, where they would help any participant in the market to optimize their return. Because market is all about gaining returns, whether you're trading, whether you're investing. The end point or the end objective is how much more return can you get vis-a-vis opportunities available. Very frankly, Sandeep, if we talk about what opportunity does the person have today, to put their investments to work. If you a bank today, traditionally people would invest in fixed deposits. With interest rate coming down, globally, today interest rates that you're getting in a fixed deposit is not even good enough to cover inflation. So, for example, typically you'll be getting 5.5% to 6%, even in an economy like India or Mauritius. That would not even cover your inflation. So basically, you're not growing your money, even if you're putting it in the bank. So you need to find out investment avenues where you will be able to beat the inflation plus grow your money. So you're looking at a return of at least 7 to 10%, even if you're the most conservative of the investors. So I mean, older investors would want to invest in something like a commodity like gold because they feel that gold has always been a safe commodity. It's been a hedge against inflation. It's been a hedge against uncertain times. But look at the evolution of the new themes that we are getting. If you look at the evolving technology, if you look at these private equity space, for example, if you look at fintech as an area which is coming up so fast, if people can identify areas where a normal person who's not a large investor, for example, fintech, the whole benefit of fintech today is taken by large private equity investors or angel investors, right? A common man does not have any access to these high growth companies. So if somebody can come up and think about solutions where you are providing a bridge to smaller investors to be able to invest into these upcoming ideas, then that's an area to crack. That's an area where a youngster can come up with a solution where people can. So you're basically breaking down a large investment into smaller investments and making it, again, touching upon the point of accessibility you said. I mean, 5-10 years ago, you didn't have a way to access the US markets. Today, it's at your fingertips. 5 from now, investing in a new startup would also be at your fingertips for a smaller investor, right? So this is the area, or this is the way the market is moving forward, and this is an area to track, and this is the area where most of the innovation going forward will be coming in.
Interesting, interesting. So Amit, we've launched your course on the Adventure platform, which is called Stock Market: The Fundamentals. And who do you think is the ideal participant who should attend this course, and why?
I think it's a very, very basic course, Sandeep. To introduce the course, it's a very, very basic course, but at the same time, it's a course which anybody who has absolutely no knowledge. The way I structured the course was that somebody who's just fascinated by the term stock market, or has been listening about from their friends or from their social contacts, they've been hearing, did you invest into the market? See how the markets are soaring. Oh, I made a great return in the market investing, and you are confused about what is this stock market all about. So I'm trying to demystify the word stock market and how the stock market as an entity is used for people to deploy their savings, to grow and all. So I start from making people understand what a stock market is all about by talking about the different pillars that actually create a stock market. What are the different functions of a stock market, so that they can understand before getting into cave, they understand what exactly are the components of that particular. So they are not in the dark. So they get a bit comfortable about what is, And from there on, I take them to the fact that the stock market is the place where there are so many different participants. I try to demystify what each participant is trying to do. And then I take them to the journey of why shouldn't you be also looking into participating into that market so that you are able to create wealth for yourself. Right? So beautifully demystifies and makes them understand that this is an area that they should be getting knowledge on. And once they have a knowledge on it, maybe they'll get more interested in it. Maybe they would want to explore a bit deeper into it. Maybe they would want a more advanced course on it to understand the nuances of how you actually go into trading or how actually go into investment. So it's a basic introductory course to basically raise the interest of people in understanding or to remove any kind of confusion that they might have in mind, so that after the course, when they go and meet their friends, they can say, yeah, now we understand what the stock market is. And we are really interested, to be a participant in the market. That's what the whole objective is. So you could have students. You could have students. You could have teachers. You could have professors. Have retired people. You could have housewives. Anybody who's sitting at home but has an inquisitive mind, right? Is a target audience, or is a person who would benefit from going through this course.
Definitely. I've attended your course, and I must say that it helps one understand what the market really comprises of. And of course, we've called it fundamentals, we've called it a basic course, and from your perspective, it is definitely basic, but the journey that you take a person through, I think will make them really understand market end to end. At least the fundamental knowledge they will be thorough with. So for all those who are joining the course, I enjoy it. It's a very well structured. It is not only a 3-hour course, but it is 25 years of Amit's experience of understanding the market that has been encapsulated in these 3 hours. So enjoy it, and thank you for all those who've been listening and watching us. Thank you, Amit. This has been a wonderful conversation.